warming, global cooling? Is there a disinformation campaign by evil individuals who care nothing about our freedoms and liberties? Is the activity of human beings causing the planet to heat? Or is this just all an agenda by someone? Stay tuned. Next, the hoax of global warming, right here on We Have the Power. I'm your host, Brian Gardner, with another episode of We Have the Power. This time, the hoax of global warming. In this program, I will give you information that will show you that the worldwide campaign about global warming and that human activity is causing the planet to heat are hoaxes. I will also, at the end of the show, give you things you can do to make sure that your elected officials, your public servants, are doing right for you and not vested interests. Let's start with a quote by someone who was an actual proponent of global warming and very well known in the global warming community. I know that global warming is false, but I also know where my grant funding money comes from. And he was a well-known leading global warming proponent and scientist. And too often this is what we get in this situation. From my book, Plan for America on the World, in Chapter 3, The Hoax of Global Warming, I say this: the complete hoax and falsity regarding the claims of global warming, and more recently, warming climate change, and that human activity is causing a dangerous rise in Earth's temperatures, represents one of the biggest con jobs forwarded by the following: the UN, sections of the US government, other governments, public servants, scientists who have been bought off, the power elite, and the media. It is suspected that too much of what gets reported in the media and on this issue is controlled by the power elite. The basic information you need to know is that calculations by Serbian civil engineer Milutin Milankovic back in the 1920s proved that the Earth has a tilt and a wobble in its orbit and its long-term journey around the sun, resulting in periods of ice and periods without ice called interglacials. For every 100,000 years of ice ages, we have about 10,000 years of what we've been born into. But we are, by all calculations, in the last stages of the interglacial. We are in the last stages of the interglacial. We are in about the 11,000th year. And from here on, it is a slide back again toward ice age conditions. Now, it doesn't mean that next week, next month, next year, you're going to wake up and there's glaciers on your front lawn. That scenario is only put forward by those that want to discredit the factual information presented by those that know that global warming and human-caused warming of the planet, known as climate change, is false. Here's how they have fooled the public. Currently, we have tremendous drought all over the western states and the world, and there's a graphic that we're showing about this. When you have drought, that means that the sunlight reaching the earth is not sufficient to cause evaporation of ocean waters and lakes, resulting in cloud cover, rainfall, and snow. Now, snow melts during the summer and produces water for those communities that live near ice and snow. That is not happening. There is tremendous drought in many areas of the world, and that means we are not getting the sunlight we need because of the Milankovitch effects. When you have drought, you have a cooling planet. Now, people think, gosh, the land areas are getting hot. Well, there's no rainfall, there's no cloud cover, there's no snow. The land areas get hot, and people think, oh, it must be warming. A warming planet has more evaporation of water, more rainfall, more snow. It's colder. But you see, this is how they fool people. And this is how they've fooled on a worldwide scale publics, governments, businesses, and I'll talk about the agenda on why they have done this later in this program. We're showing you some pictures of some of the graphs that show the planet is not warming on the long term. Now, I started an organization called Advanced Technology Research, and the whole idea behind Advanced Technology Research is to promote research and articles and discussions so that we can talk about environmental issues and societal issues for a better world tomorrow and today. And a very important part of what ATR does, we are preparing a report right now on fusion power. Fusion power is not fission where you heat up water with radioactive materials. Fusion is where you fuse particles together and you're able to take the hydrogen out and use it as an energy source. Unfortunately, to this point, our scientists cannot contain the high temperatures of the fusion reaction enough to get any power out of it. But here's why I believe this global warming and human-caused warming has been pushed. I have a declassified CIA report that says, oh yes, the planet is cooling. We're going to have trouble feeding the 7 billion people because the areas where they've been growing food will be covered with mile-thick ice sheets. People will have to move. There'll be migration. And the United States will be less hard hit and will be in a very dangerous position of deciding who gets water and food. Now, that CIA report came out when they were making strides in fusion power. And here's why fusion power is so feared. By the banks and the international oil companies. The international oil companies want to continue to keep us on oil. The banks want to make sure that all the countries owe them large sums of money as a means of control. If a small African country set up a workable fusion reactor on the coast of their country, they would draw the ocean water into the fusion reactor, take the hydrogen for power, use the water to irrigate their crops, feed their people. They would have unlimited energy, and they could say, banks, we don't need you. Oil companies, we don't need you. And you can see why they are against advances in fusion and want to fool us into thinking that we better go back to wind and solar and these methods of energy which are not viable on a worldwide scale. The environmental movement was started after the 60s. And guess what happened in the 60s? Young people were protesting the Vietnam War to such an extent that finally Middle America said, enough is enough. We don't want to be in Vietnam anymore. Now, the military-industrial complex and people like Bell Helicopter who were making millions of dollars off that war and didn't care about the Vietnamese people who were being killed and murdered, wanted that war to go on for years and years and years and years, making them billions of dollars. More bombs were dropped in Vietnam than the entire World War II. And it's a much smaller area, of course, than all of Europe and Russia. Young people kept exposing the fact that that war was a money-making machine not designed to free anyone. And guess what? At one point, young people were dictating White House policy, even though they thought they lost the revolution. After getting beat up by these hippies, they decided to destroy the educational system. They pumped drugs into the society. They raised the taxes obscenely high so that people would not have the energy or the time to ever protest again because the young people exposed way too much. And when the Pentagon Papers came out, and when finally it came out that the Gulf of Tonkin incident was completely fabricated, these people were in dire trouble of being exposed. And so the environmental movement was born. And people like Bill Gates, who thinks that the population of the world should be 300 million, I get a little emotional when I think the fact that Bill Gates stands in support of killing 6 billion people because of his twisted, psychotic ideas. But that is exactly what they're doing with the claims of global warming and human-caused warming of the planet. They want to fool us because, let me tell you, if we follow their guidelines, millions of people will perish and millions more will live out a life trying to find proper shelter, food, and water. That is what they have done on a worldwide scale. Now, there are good people speaking out about this. Steve Gorham, the founder of the Climate Science Coalition of America, is an author and a lecturer. We're going to show you his picture. And he has books out. He has incredible information. I have a quote by him that I want to share with you. Climatism is the belief that man-made greenhouse gases are destroying Earth's climate, which is false. Steve Gorham speaks and writes books and lectures on this extensively. What we need and what you need to demand of your public servants, your elected officials, is a new report free from vested interest control and meddling. Let's get a blank piece of paper and find out what's really going on with the future of the planet. Because let me tell you, I am convinced by the studies I have looked at that in the next 200 or 300 years, there is going to be another ice age on this planet. And how we are going to be able to feed 7 billion or more by then, it could be a catastrophe. Now, the solution, and you'll notice this picture, is not underground military bases where the elite get to go to live out the 10,000 years that the ice ages last. That is genocide. That is picking certain people as the ones who will have food and shelter and water. That is unacceptable to any individual. Yes, we must be continually environmentally clean. We don't want to be dumping toxins in our rivers. We don't really want to keep driving cars that are spewing out CO2, which is good for the planet, but also the toxins that come out of the tailpipe. What you should do is write to your public servants, your elected officials, and demand not that they change everything, because they are so hoodwinked and so under pressure because it costs so much money to get elected, and they have to answer to these people that are pushing these false hoaxes. Actually, not false hoaxes, real hoaxes, that are pushing these real hoaxes. What you want to demand is that, hey, I want to see a new report done without scientists who are paid and bought. And you know, if you don't say this, you're not going to get your papers published in the New England Journal of Science and all that, putting pressure on them. No, you write to your public officials, your elected officials, your public servants who are supposed to be working for you. And you tell them, I want a report that's free from vested interests so we know properly what to do about future environmental issues. That they will respond to. Now, there is a danger. Those who are promoting and knowingly putting forth false information worldwide will eventually be discovered, and they will face crimes against humanity. Because again, I want to repeat to you, if we follow their guidelines, millions will perish and millions will eke out an existence without proper shelter, food, or water. Now, these individuals will be charged and I believe found guilty of crimes against humanity. That's why I will never stand with them. I will never support them, and I will do everything as long as there's breath in my lungs to expose what they're doing. Now, rather than long jail sentences, these individuals who knowingly promoted this hoax should be ordered by the judge to do a lifetime of repair of our environment to make up for the damage they have done. I encourage you to read the report that Advanced Technology has put together. You'll see an ad at the end of this show where you can get this report for free. It is all based on facts. Again, read Steve Gorham's books. He is the head of the Climate Science Coalition of America. Do not be fooled because corporations and public servants and other individuals in power are promoting these myths. Here is another quote that points out exactly what I'm talking about. Nature, not human activity, rules the climate. That was Dr. S. Fred Singer. Now, Steve Gorham's book is called Mad, Mad World of Climatism. And he says this. This was said actually about his book by a PhD. Gorham's book is an excellent, readable, comprehensive, and indispensable education for everyone. It should be required reading in all schools, universities, state houses, and Congress. That was Edwin Berry, PhD, physicist and meteorologist. Remember, warming planets have more evaporation and rainfall and snow. They do not have drought. Cooling planets are not receiving enough sunlight to be able to cause there to be rainfall and snow, and you get drought. It is the senior way that they try to fool people. Oh, the land areas are getting hot? Well, the planet must be heating up. No. See through this deception. Read these materials, because your children's children's children are going to deal with the mistakes or the proper actions we took in defeating this criminal, insane, psychotic push that global warming and human-caused warming of the planet are real. They are hoaxes, they are lies, and they are presented and pushed covertly in the media by some of the most evil individuals of our time who do not care about what's in my heart with this show, our freedoms and liberties. I wanted to show you that in the news, this false information is continually pounded home, and you must not be fooled about it. Recently in the Sun, right here in Las Vegas, and certainly in the papers where you are if you're watching this program somewhere else, they probably have similar editorials. This I'm about to read you is almost laughable if it didn't entail the danger to the people that it does. Respect for science back in style at the Environmental Protection Agency with Michael Regan, who has now been appointed head of the EPA. That is ludicrous. Back in style with science? No, they're using science that is bought and paid for, which is false. He should be ashamed of himself for forwarding these lies. You might, as I did, write a letter to the editor complaining about this kind of falsity in the news. Here's another one. Biden's billions to fight climate change sadly are not enough. It might take billions for us to be able to deal with the next ice age, but Biden spending billions of dollars on a hoax is not going to help our future be a good one, because he is following the vested interests and those that are forwarding hoaxes in front of us. Here's an article that points to exactly what I talk about in this program. The West drought to get worse, forecasters say. Of course it will, because the Milankovitch theories and calculations show us that because the Earth has a tilt and a wobble in its long-term orbit of the sun, we're not going to get the sunlight that we need to evaporate ocean waters properly so that we have water to live and to irrigate our crops with. Global Environment Report paints a dire picture of the planet. You bet. You try growing the amount of food you need for 7 billion people with mile-thick ice sheets eventually covering the best agricultural areas. That's right, but it's not global warming. Here is an attempt by Connecticut to alter and control the minds of our youth. Connecticut proposes climate change schools curriculum. Here's another thing you can do. You make sure that you write or go to the PTA meetings and you tell them, I do not want my child fed information on global warming and human-caused climate change unless you balance it out by having someone like Steve Gorham present the other side of the issue. Because if you don't, I will take my child out of school. And guess what? Schools get money for students being there. If they see students leaving en masse because they're trying to brainwash our students into believing hoaxes, they'll either straighten up or they'll lose students because you will not put up with it. Well, I call him Governor Nuisance Newsom in California. California goal, phase out fossil fuels. This is one of the worst things you could do. If we stop the amount of CO2 in the air, the planet is going to cool quicker. That CO2 is kind of like if someone opens a door in your house on a cold day, you reach for your coat. Well, we need to keep the planet warmer given that we are heading back toward ice age conditions. Here's another one. As climate change takes hold, the need to combat global warming only builds. No, it doesn't. What we need to do is realize that the planet is cooling. We are heading toward ice age conditions, and that will be difficult for mankind to deal with. These kinds of articles are in the paper on a regular basis. Let me share something with you that is so simple that you can do. They are looking for people to write letters on current issues. Every paper carries exactly where to email your letter to. Write a letter that's succinct, not too long, gets to the point, get it in the paper about your beliefs, and after you watch this show and watch Steve Gorham's information, you might be motivated to write a letter to your hometown paper. When it gets published, cut it out, paste it up, copy it off. You can make about 100 copies for less than $20 and mail it everywhere because you may change someone else's mind. How about that? You who thought you couldn't do anything to help the planet, you wrote a letter, you copied it off, you mailed it to friends, and you changed something. This is what we can do collectively. I hope you will spread this show, tell your friends and associates about it, and continue watching our different episodes of We Have the Power. And thank you for watching.
Stand for something right. Build a raging waterfall. As an individual, you're powerful. Yes, you can change the world.
Hello. If you would like either an emailed version or an actual copy of my book, Plan for America and the World, just send me an email to bgardner2323@yahoo.com stating which you prefer. You will receive a free copy of my book, and I even pay the shipping. You will also receive a copy of a special report I co-authored called Global Warming is a False Threat Based on Faulty Science from a group I am the founder and president of, Advanced Technology Research. You will also receive either the link to obtain the booklets or 2 booklets from the Drug-Free World Organization, The Truth About Drugs and The Truth About Marijuana. The Truth About Marijuana also comes in a Spanish version. Please specify which you would like, or you can receive both. It is vital that the information in my book, the special report, and the anti-drug booklets are read by as many people as possible. so we never lose our freedoms and liberties. Thank you. Traditional TV is going away. Hollywood is starting to fade. People are demanding real stories from real people. Our voices are now being heard in our own way. Podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok Live are becoming the norm. Internet TV has now reached the highest demand in human history. Social media shows is now the new media of the century.
We've reached the age of live streaming on social media shows. You may ask, we're already ahead of the curve, so why do you need to advertise with us? Well, only 8% of the businesses in the US are using digital advertising to grow their business. That's 2 percentage points short of reaching critical mass, which will lead to faster results. We have 20 plus shows with a reach of over 80,000. We'll give you commercial ads, website link, and connections to nonprofit organizations. So get your brand ready for digital monetization, for we are looking for sponsors, which will bring more traffic to your business and ultimately mean more sales. So let's bring the world to you. Inquire now.
As we continue to grow and build a brand, social media shows continue to develop and discover new possibilities to help one another. Our affordable services will help us move to the next level of our journey. Host your own show to inspire or entertain others for as low as $150 per month.
We have 20 shows a week, live stream.
We are looking for sponsors. We showcase your business products and services on our network to be seen by your target market for as low as $200 a month.
That's 2 percentage points short of reaching critical mass, which will lead to faster results. We have 20 plus shows with a reach of over 80,000. We'll give you commercial ads, website link, and connections to nonprofit organizations.
Let us promote and advertise your event, giving your venue the red carpet treatment. This platform allows venues that feature entertainment, singers, bands, DJs, comedy, fashion, corporate events, and family events to be showcased in a new direction that also involves your audiences starts at $200 an hour. We also provides video editing, website builder, commercial video